Morning all, and welcome to today's news video, which was kind of scant, small. Now it's robust, and likely there's going to be more signings coming up, uh, probably before the end of the day, I would think. Because we had three hearings set for today with arbitration, and only one of them is still scheduled to happen, which is Christian Juice. So watch for Christian Juice to get extended by the Washington Capitals. Nobody wants to go to arbitration. We're starting off with the Vegas Golden Knights and their property, which is Nikita Gusev, who they can't seem to get to a contract. His ask is $4 million a year for 2 years. Their counteroffer has been $2 million for 2 years. They're still having conversations. George McPhee says they've had offers. There's been interest. And of course, I've reported before, the interest is not at the level that Vegas is happy with. They don't want to trade away Gusev and not get enough back. So the idea of getting a draft pick outside the first round and a B level prospect doesn't get it done. And that appears to be what they're being offered. Their agent has come out and said, look, this is great and all, but at some point in time, we've gone far enough that SKA, who owns his rights in the KHL, are going to have to get concrete negotiations from us. And the potential then is that he just signs with SKA and he goes home to the KHL. This is why general managers hesitate to draft Russians. This is why they slip down. This is part of the reason why Podkolzin ended up going at 10 to Vancouver. Because there's the possibility that in a couple of years he goes, yeah, it'd be nice to come over to the Canucks and play on an ELC, but I can make more money at home, so I'm just going to stay here. It does happen. There's the cultural shift as well. So while we look at NCAA players and we say, this NCAA player went UFA rather than sign with the team that drafted him, and there's some risk there. There is more risk with KHL players and Europeans to just say, I'll just stay home and make more money. Now moving on from that, Mike Gillis, been some interviews with him, and I've actually found them entertaining. One thing that I agree with him on, one thing he was absolutely lambasted over was signing Matt Sundin. The problem was he was trying to sign Matt Sundin to a 2-year, $20 million contract. That was ridiculous. The thing is, I understood what he was doing, and I'm gonna mention it in here as well. Matt Sundin coming to Vancouver was needed for that core of young players who kind of needed to mature and kind of needed to see a player of Sundin's ilk. He was a guy with a lot of class, a guy who carried himself very, very well. He played well in high pressure situations, and having played in Toronto for a very, very long time, he knew how to deal with adversity. That was an organization that went through plenty while he was there, and he was able to help guide the Canucks. Ryan Kessler was the biggest example of a player who was helped by Sundin being in Vancouver, and I think it helped the Sedins as well. So while he gets a lot of flack for a lot of things he did, and he also defended in that article naming Roberto Luongo captain, I can't defend that. And then when he brought about the justification for why he did it, it's even more baffling. So I'll leave that out. But yes, Sundin was a good addition for the Canucks, and it definitely helped them after he left. He was one of the reasons they became the top team during the regular season, anyways. After his exit. So yeah, there's that. James Neal has come out and said the obvious. He wants to play with McDavid. Yeah, they all do. Everybody does. And so I'm not necessarily surprised by this, but there will be some in Edmonton that really, cross their fingers and hope that the 30-goal James Neal shows up playing on a wing with McDavid. And with McDavid, really, all you have to do is just stand in the right spot in front of the net. He'll just bounce the puck off you and it'll go in. It's the old Anson Carter rule. I think there was some of that with Alex Chase on this past season as well. And that's just the way that works. This is why when people say, well, so-and-so's a better player than that guy because he's got more goals, to state that a goal is necessarily more important than the assist that set it up would state that all goals are beautiful and all goals are fantastic in their quality and they're all equal, and they're not. There are plenty of players in this league that make their living off what we would call garbage goals, where they just stand in front of the net, wait for the puck, and then bury it. And their goals are more... in some cases much easier to do than the assists that set them up, where a guy might have to thread the needle through three or four sticks to get there. So if Neal can be that guy who just goes to the net and just waits for basically for the rebounds or takes the passes from McDavid, yeah. Because I think McDavid as a player, I think he prefers to pass the puck rather than take the shot. He seems to me to be the kind of guy who's a pass first guy. And you look at Draisaitl with 50 goals, and that plays a role in that as well. So if James Neal can play the wing really well, if he can fill in that spot, it definitely fixes a major hole that the Oilers have had in their roster. It is a large assumption that he'll get back to that level. The expectation is probably more like 20. But if he can reinvigorate his career and get up into that 30 range, the Oilers are in pretty good shape. They still have some work on the blue line. I'm concerned with their goaltending, but that would help one of the major weaknesses they've had, which has been the wing. Neuvirth is reporting he's getting a tryout with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Michael Neuvirth can be a good goaltender. I have liked him since his days in Washington. I've watched him bounce around the league, and I still believe he can be a good goaltender. I do. And for Philly fans watching going, Shannon, yeah, no. I think there's still a good goaltender in there, and I think he's still young enough to rediscover it. And if he does end up getting a tryout with the Leafs, it'll be interesting because we haven't seen Sparks get moved. There was some speculation Sparks was on the market and he might be getting moved. That hasn't happened. If Neuvirth outplays him in training camp, would they actually have the courage to say, okay, we're going to put Sparks on waivers and keep Neuvirth? Or is his tryout just gonna fizzle? So we'll see what happens there, right? Pat Maroon, as recently as 2 days ago, discussed how he is still talking to Doug Armstrong, GM of the Blues, about the possibility of coming back. The problem being the Blues do not have the cap space to bring him back, and they still have restricted free agents that are outstanding. So either he's going to keep waiting and seeing what happens with St. Louis, that's where he wants to play, or he's going to take one of the other offers that's out there. He's stated he thinks he has 2 really good years left and 3 years in total he thinks he can give to a team. This has been the rumor as well that he may want more than a 1-year contract. It's important, and then for a player, you don't feel like concerned you're going to be a rental at the deadline or you're going to get shuffled off. So that extra year gives you a little bit more security. Mackenzie Weegar was supposed to have a hearing today. Instead, he signs a 1-year, $1.6 million extension with Florida, so he can do it all over again next summer. Weegar, he had an up and down year, and there were some games where I thought he played well, and there were some games where he looked pretty brutal out there. I think he's still figuring out his game at the National Hockey League level. Defensemen do that. They take a while. The expectation that defensemen just come into the league and they're just great. It's like, they're playing against guys like McDavid and Giroux and Crosby and all these star players. He should be just as... No, it takes a while sometimes. So Weegar still getting things figured out. Zach Aston-Reese also signed this morning rather than go through the arbitration process. 2-year, $2 million deal for him. So that's $1 million per. That's fine. Aston-Reese, I still think there's third center, number 3 center potential with him. We'll see if he gets more games in for Pittsburgh this year than he did last year. It was kind of a setback year for him last year. It wasn't the kind of year that I had expected him to have. Andrew Kopp had his hearing yesterday. We haven't heard anything yet. And hearings will continue until August 4th. Or at least they should. That's when the last hearing is scheduled. But as we've been seeing, a lot of these guys are getting done sooner because they don't want to go through the process of sitting down and having general manager talk them down while they try to talk the team down and talk about other teams being cheap. Like I said, my expectation is Christian Djoos signs a contract. May very well come out before this video ends up getting uploaded. Wouldn't surprise me if it did. And on the Gusev thing, I have no idea what's going to happen there. I don't know if he's going to sign. I don't know if he's going to get traded. For Vegas, here's the thing. You don't want to lose him for nothing. So you don't want him going back to the KHL and have him sign 2 years there, and then he's 29. He's never played in the NHL. His value is going to just plummet from there. So they may be forced, and the agent might be throwing lobbing a grenade out there to say, look, maybe these deals aren't the ones you want, but you're going to have to take it, or we're leaving and you'll get nothing. So we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below this video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video as well. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.